Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome General Manager, IBM Power Systems, Doug Balog.
Everybody today. I am so thrilled to be here with you today, and thank you to Jim Whitehurst and the rest of the Red Hat team for gathering us all together today. I was reminded at dinner last night, this is IBM's 11th keynote and sponsorship for the Red Hat Summit, 11th. Great, a great sign of our partnership together. I think it also indicates the commitment we see in openness and the role openness plays in the ongoing transformation we all deal with every day. I think you just look at companies like IBM, Dell you saw before, and many of your firms who I've met with over the years, and we all know we're going through transformation. In fact, I like to say, if you picked the IT field because you were looking for something stable, I got bad news for you. You picked the wrong career path, right? This is a constantly changing field. On a personal story, when I went down the path of getting into computer science, my mother tried to talk me out of it. She didn't think it had legs. I was recently talking to her just a couple weeks ago on her birthday, and I like to tease her about this now. And I said, Mom, I think this field's about ready to pop any day now. It's about ready to go. I can feel it. I can feel the moment at which openness and IT kind of really pop. On a serious note, though, let's talk about the forces we all feel, the forces in the market that are driving this transformation. First, data. I think we all can agree we are drowning in data, but it's not just about data, it's about the business insights you all want to get in your firms from this data. Who doesn't want to connect together the data from an on-premises that you have about your clients as they walk through your store, as they do transactions, with what do they say in the social world about you? That connection from a 360-degree view. Which of you don't want to leverage cloud technology? That could be on-premise. You want to do it all yourself on premises. You believe you run it well already and want to continue to run it yourself. Some were born in the cloud and want to just start and continue to grow in the public cloud alone. But most of you will find a hybrid world. It'll cut across clouds across public domains, as well as clouds that connect public domains and private domains. This is another force we all face every day. And finally, it's about engagement. This is kind of that softer side of how does your company engage with your customers? How does your company engage with other companies in this whole social mobile world where it's all about the experience? I don't know how to measure experience, but I know how it feels when I like the experience as I engage to pay off my credit card, as I seem to do these days at 30,000 feet in the air on the Wi-Fi system. Right? I mean, who doesn't do that these days? So these are the forces that are driving the transformation, and openness underpins so many of these, and we'll talk more about that. Now, I'm in the systems business, as you saw. I've always been in the systems business across every type of technology these days. But as I think about a taxonomy by which we think about our infrastructure, our platforms, I think it's helpful to put it in these three categories. First, systems of record. For many of you, these are the final versions of truth. This is where the data resides. When you want to know the honest-to-God truth of did the transaction occur or didn't it? Did it clear? These are the systems that run your companies, that when they're down, it's a really bad day. Support's critical, as we just heard. But there's other systems evolving that are moving at different paces. There's those systems of engagement. They're experimental, they're agile, they're quick to deploy, they're driven by lines of business, by your chief marketing officer. They're about getting you out there, getting you connected in that new model of engagement. And they move at fast pace. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. That's okay. It is about experimenting, trying things and moving very quick. Those are systems of engagement. Third, systems of insight. Back to that point around data. How do you connect together the data you have on premises with the data that exists in this massive world of the Internet of Things? How do sensors drive your decision making? How does social sentiment drive your decision making? Again, if you're in the banking field, it's no longer the regulators watching the ATMs to see which ones are down. They're watching what are people saying about the bank in a social environment. My example of 30,000 feet, paying off my credit card. If I can't get access, suddenly I'm unable to perform that transaction, I'm quite liable to start tweeting from 30,000 feet how horrible I think my bank is. That's the way in which social sentiment is gathered, and that is so important to the decisions we make every minute, every day to transform your business. Of course, many of these, as I said, will be delivered in the cloud, and of course, security is at the heart of every one of these things, because who doesn't want to have a data breach? So this is the way in which we at IBM think about the taxonomy of systems in this new era we find ourselves in that's moving fast. Now, we recently took our next step as a company in transforming ourselves. We aligned ourselves from a set of capabilities and formed growth units focused on things like commerce, security, cloud, analytics, Watson, healthcare, and others. But then at the core of this, we brought together for the first time our middleware, our servers, and our complete storage portfolio into what we call our systems unit. But if you look across the systems unit, which I have shown here by a sort of brand segment, you can see underpinning each of our systems brands is this commitment to openness. In the middleware space, a place we're very proud to be number one in the market, openness, the connection with Apache, the use of Docker containers, the development tools, so critical to our ongoing success and growth with you in this middleware space. In our mainframe business, our System Z business, as we like to say, or Z if you're from Europe, has a bunch of different names. It's been around for 50 plus years, but it's not the same technology of 50 years ago. 15 years ago, we made the decision to bring Linux to the mainframe. In fact, this was the first $1 billion commitment IBM made to Linux back in year 2000. And I'd like to say in probably some small way, we helped bring Linux to the enterprise with that commitment of over 15 years ago. Today, our mainframe business, the capacity that grows every quarter with our new Z13, more and more of that capacity is Linux-based workload. In fact, over half of that capacity every quarter we ship is Linux these days. So is Linux alive and well on the mainframe? You bet it is. And it's driving new use cases and new models, and I'll give you an example in a second. In our power business, which I happen to run today, we have embraced Linux like we've never embraced it before as the growth engine for this platform. And it's not just Linux. It's a complete open source stack of software from KVM through the operating system, through the tooling of OpenStack, to the tool chain, to a commitment of openness called the OpenPower Foundation. I'll help you understand it a little bit more. In our storage business, it's about connecting our storage into an OpenStack managed data center. It's about leveraging Linux as the underpinning by which we work on our software-defined storage play. And it's about leveraging our leadership flash technology to make Linux applications run faster. So hopefully you can see, across every one of our systems brands, openness underpins our strategies. Now, a couple customer stories. MD Anderson, a leader in healthcare, working, as we would all hope they do, to eradicate cancer. What's the number one problem doctors have? They are indeed drowning in data. And it's not just data in terms of textbooks, it's all of the clinical studies that are going on around the world every day trying to solve this problem of cancer. But again, it's not just data that they see, it's the patterns they can't see yet, the patterns of connections that haven't even been thought of or found. MD Anderson selected IBM's Watson. You may remember Watson from about 3-4 years ago playing Jeopardy. Watson has greatly grown up since then. As it transcends medical fields, healthcare, finance, retail, and other industries that are looking to take advantage of the cognitive capability that Watson provides. So doctors now are using at MD Anderson Watson as that ingest cognitive engine by which to consume this data from diverse resources and help them see patterns they were never thought possible, to see outcomes for patients that weren't known before, to see the potential on an individual by individual basis to eradicate their cancer. And I'm happy to say Watson runs on Linux on IBM Power Systems. Why? It's the best platform for it to move forward as fast as it needs to move. Next story, customer story, Radix. You may not know who Radix is. Radix is an airline reservation system for outside the US for small and medium airlines. Now, what's perhaps even more interesting about Radix is the story of their CEO. Their CEO, Ronald Perry, a name we know well. So Ronald used to be in the insurance industry back in the 80s. And I pull out this card because I have to remember the specific quote. I want to make sure I get this right. He was labeled in a Wall Street Journal article as the vanguard of revolution against the high-priced tyranny of mainframe computing. We know him. We know him. So here we now find Ronald. Ronald is now CEO of Radix. A bunch of years later, a bunch of technology turns later, a bunch of industry trends later. Ronald was looking for a way to deal with what's important in the airline reservation of cost. And he had server sprawl, a problem I'll bet many of you have, and was looking for a better economical way to deal with reservations. He went back to his roots. He's now running a mainframe, Linux on the mainframe, delivering over 30% better economics by running Linux on that tyranny platform he so hated 30 years ago. He's a converted one. Why? Because of Linux on the mainframe and the capabilities it provides to run thousands and thousands of virtual machines. No other platform can do that from a consolidation or speed at which virtual machines can be spun up like a System Z. Okay, so a couple customer stories. Hopefully what I've been able to show you, whether you think about it from a systems of record, systems of engagements, or systems of insight, whether you think about it across brands, it is about open technology at the core of what we're doing across these market trends to drive rapid innovation in the market. It is about innovation. This is how, as we've come to learn, you've taught us that community-based approach is always the best approach to get the best outcome for our clients. So, it's more than just about technology, though. It's about people at the end of the day. Right? It's about people, as we saw in the award that was given earlier. It's about individuals. So how are we participating as a company in open source? We have over 500 individuals who wake up at IBM every day contributing to the open source community. We take advantage of open source packages, such as in our WebSphere platform, where there's well over 100 open source packages we leverage to bring the value of WebSphere to clients. Just last week, we announced our commitment to Spark technology and the fact that we were going to shift 3,500 developers, yes, 3,500 developers to work on advancing the capabilities of Spark. I told the story of our mainframe business a second ago. Again, an ongoing modernization story from a platform that began its journey as a census machine over 50 years ago. Today, over 74,000 students leave universities every year with knowledge around the mainframe, or particularly Linux on the mainframe. We call it Master the Mainframe. We have a World Cup of Master the Mainframe. This thing has a whole lifeblood unto itself now in terms of the competitiveness by which the open community has embraced the mainframe around our Master the Mainframe program. We're a leading contributor, I think the leading contributor to OpenStack contribution. So as you can see, our people are actively involved with you, many of you, in the innovation in the open source community. Now, at the bottom right might be an icon you don't know. I don't know, we'll find out. OpenPower. Have many of you heard of OpenPower? I know a few of you have, sure. There's a few hands, and I can only see the first two rows, so the rest of you are safe. So OpenPower, a little bit of story of the OpenPower Foundation. 2 years ago, IBM, Google, Mellanox, NVIDIA, and Tyan, a motherboard company, got together with a shared vision, I'll say on a bar napkin. That vision was, now was the point in time to leverage the same wonderful innovation we've learned about open source software into open source hardware. And you say, why now? Why now? Well, I think if you think about what's gone on, as I described, the world of IT consumption is changing. Things like Moore's Law, which used to deliver in simple terms double the performance every 2 years, are becoming constrained, and it's a massive headwind in terms of the processor alone delivering that kind of performance gain. Google saw this, we saw this, NVIDIA saw this, and a few of the others did too. So we said, you know what, the only way in which we're going to continue to drive innovation in the server space with a community of innovators, not one company just owning the innovation agenda, was to form the OpenPower Foundation. We were going to open up the power architecture like ARM processors. You know, ARM, they're the processor in just about every one of your mobile devices. We're going to open up the power processor to anybody who wants to use it, anybody who wants to license it, anybody who wants to do derivative rights on it, anybody who wants to innovate around it. So we formed the foundation. We didn't know where it was going to go. You often don't with an open foundation. As I said, started with 5. When we launched a year ago in San Francisco, there was 25 companies that were beginning this journey around the OpenPower Foundation. I'm happy to share with you today that there are now 140 companies as part of the OpenPower Foundation. Now, you say, well, it's more than just about membership. What is the membership doing? About a month ago, we had our first OpenPower Foundation Summit in California. We were thrilled to see 15 members of the OpenPower Foundation show up with a variety of hardware motherboards based on power to serve the hyperscale data center space, to serve high-performance computing, to go address the domestic IT challenges we see in China and other places around the world. 15. Those are individual system designs I don't have enough people to do in 6 months, and yet in 6 months, the industry created this. Each of them highly innovative in what they put together. Just 2 weeks ago in China, the OpenPower Foundation, I'm not even sure IBM was there, had its first all-Chinese OpenPower Summit. 600 attendees, government officials. You can imagine why China loves the aspect of openness. Complete transparency, complete trust, complete security. Companies there are launching power-based servers like Red Power from Zoom Networks, but others like ZTE, Inspur, NewCloud, and so forth are building power-based systems to serve the needs of that domestic IT market, which is changing probably faster than any other market in the world. So when you say why now, I think it's pretty obvious. Servers are dying for innovation, and it's going to come in different ways than it came over the last 20 years, where it's not the processor alone. It is about a community of innovators, from the processor to the system design to the I/O to the accelerators. Yes, you don't need to buy an accelerator company to have innovation accelerators. That's what happens in this. It's a community that comes together to deliver amazing things. In fact, sometimes the journey doesn't even, you don't even know where the journey is going to end. So as an example, you've probably heard of Open Compute. Open Compute, a form factor. Facebook was one of the founders of Open Compute. Well, many companies in the hyperscale space use an Open Compute design point for their cloud infrastructure. Rackspace is one of those examples. Rackspace is now a member of the OpenPower Foundation. And so for the first time, OpenPower and Open Compute are coming together to create a power-based Open Compute node. Power-based Open Compute node. It creates innovation in software, in firmware, in system design, and it leads to that point of innovation. And so seeing these kind of examples, the OpenPower Foundation decided, let's collect together a set of real thought leaders in the open community and create an advisory board. So I'm thrilled to share with you today that we have our first 3 members of the OpenPower Foundation Advisory Board, the Open Compute Group, Linux Foundation, of course, and the China Power Technology Alliance, a new entity formed in China, back to my earlier point about bringing openness to the China domestic IT market. These groups will advise those 140 and growing members on how to continue to think about openness as we form work groups, as we focus on innovation, and we bring value to you. Again, a great example of when you start a community, you're not sure where it's going to go, but you've got to stay true to the spirit of delivering openness across the board, and that unleashes innovation like we've never seen before. So, let me start to wrap up. I think as we look forward, as we have gone backwards, openness, as you can see, is the future of innovation. We're forming ecosystems out there that will allow you to have choice in your systems, choice in your middleware, choice in your servers, choice in your storage. IBM is completely, as you can see, committed. We have people assigned, people working in open every day, and this is how we see bringing value to you. So thank you for your time today. Thank you again to Red Hat for giving us the opportunity to share our point of view with this audience. And again, I look forward to seeing you, as you saw with the video when I came up, in this high-paced, weightless world we all exist in today. Thank you very much.